welcome back to the class, everyone. As of today, Jocasta is officially available in Galaxy of Heroes. And while we don't have the new legendary mace to accompany her, I still want to talk about what Omicrons, mods, and relics she could be using in the meantime. And before we really get into this, I want to reiterate that point that I just mentioned there in the intro, that I also put in the title of the video, and that I will also be putting in the infographic you see above me. This video is about how to use Jocasta before the new legendary mace comes out. We know already that her whole kit, and really the whole faction of Jedi Vanguard, was made for this new legendary mace, but we don't have him yet. We don't even have his kit yet. All of his requirements aren't out yet, so it's going to be a minute before that actually becomes reality, and realistically, even once he is in the game, it's going to be several months before most of us who are free to play are even going to be able to get him up and running. So this is going to serve as kind of a guide in the meantime before that actually happens. Now, speaking of this guide, we want to start with what Omicron she's going to need overall. Since she is a conquest character, she is going to have 3 available. The good news is I really don't think she even wants all 3, and the other good news is it's going to be what I'm going to call the intuitive order, where she wants the unique first, the special second, and the basic third. But digging into the actual unique to kind of answer the question why, she's going to get 100% counter chance and is immune to ability block. I'm not sure right now how important the counter chance is going to be. We're going to have to really see what her damage looks like. The immune to ability block actually is a big deal because her quiet ability is going to reduce the cooldown of it does not exist by 10, which is a really big deal because the other special that you don't want to have ability blocked is the one that actually allows her to turn into her new form. You're going to hear this repeated multiple times throughout the video, but this is basically her kit. If she cannot get to her new form, she's doing little to nothing for herself or anyone else on her team. So being immune to ability block is really nice because it kind of doesn't guarantee, but it's going to take away one obstacle that could get in the way of her eventually getting her there. Now, in addition to that, if all allies are Jedi Vanguard, which you are going to want to do, whenever they use an ability, reduce the cooldown of it does not exist by 1. So again, we're trying to get to this new form because it has a bunch of really broken abilities that don't really exist before we get there, and this unique Omicron is going to help that even more. It also adds whenever she is stunned, she gains Deflective Ward, which can't be dispelled until she receives damage. For anyone who doesn't know or remember, Deflective Ward is an ability that actually the Galactic Legend Ahsoka gives, but it's very similar to Rey when she goes into ultimate stance, and every single one of your allies, they can still take damage, but it's only 1 damage. So it's kind of like a damage immunity light. So lots of really good stuff all wrapped up in that unique. If you're going to want to use her, and again, depending on what Mace is going to do, it seems like a must-have. Next up is going to be her special ability, which is not that one. It's actually going to be... Oh, no, it is the Shut Quiet. So if we go down to the very bottom here, one important thing, and it says it right here, but you have to be in her new form called Rifle to actually be able to use this Omicron. If you do not get to that stage, the Omicron is essentially non-existent the entire time, which is why, again, we're prioritizing the unique so we can actually get to her next form. But at any rate, the special, it dispels all debuffs on all allies, okay, and then set the target enemy's max health to 65. Now, there was a Q&A asking if this is 65% or if it's 65. And no, it's literally 65. So when you go in and you look at a random character and that, like Jedi Anakin, has 65,738 health, it's going to shrink that all the way down to literally just 2 digits of 65, which it's supposed to resemble Order 65, which something about taking down the Chancellor, but not really important. That's more just the lore bit that went alongside it. But getting back to the actual ability, that's really cool. The big drawback that it has, it's until the start of their turn. So if you use it on, say, Jedi Anakin, and he goes from 65,000 all the way down to 65, if he takes a turn, then I'm guessing he's going to get all of it back. It also excludes Galactic Legends, so it's not really an insta-kill for them. I like it. It just doesn't really solve all the problems. If you haven't completely siphoned off or just gotten rid of the enemy's protection, you're still going to have to get through that. And if they're about to take a turn, then they also it doesn't really do anything. And then again, you actually have to be in rifle form. So overall, it's going to be probably the good luxury Omicron that most of us are going to want to give her if you can afford a second one, but it's not going to be the highest priority on the list. Now, third and last place, and I wouldn't recommend this one. It's just saying on her turn, grant each Jedi Vanguard ally every dispellable buff she has for 1 turn. Which, if you think about it, this is really similar to Grandmaster Yoda's special ability where he just spreads all the buffs. And while that ability is really cool, I don't know if I would spend an Omicron to be able to use it. And especially considering the Deflective Ward, the ability that we looked at before, rather the buff we looked at before, it is undispellable, means she won't actually be able to share that with the rest of her team. So overall, probably not super necessary. Now, when it comes to Zetas, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but it's the exact same order. That doesn't always happen, by the way. It's not always that the Zetas and the Omicrons are always going to magically line up as the right order. They just kind of happen to this time, and it's for pretty much the same exact reasons. This ability right here is going to get you closer to the new form as quick as possible. The special ability actually starts to deal some real damage, and you can siphon max protection with that. And then the basic ability is, again, just kind of not very underwhelming, but just not doing as much as the other 2 abilities are overall. Now, we've talked a lot about the abilities, but what team comp is she actually going to be on? Because of wanting Jedi Vanguard, if we actually look into the Jedi Vanguard faction, it's going to be pretty exclusively Jedi and Galactic Republic at the same time. Meaning this is going to cut out a lot of the other options, like say a Jedi Knight Revan team, because those characters aren't Galactic Republic, therefore they won't have Jedi Vanguard. And it will also cross off teams like Jedi Master Kenobi, because it's going to have characters like Kat as well as Padme, who are not Jedi, who would not have the Jedi Vanguard tag. This is really important and a non-negotiable in my opinion, because to get to her new form, all allies have to be Jedi Vanguard at the beginning of the battle or whatever. So you really don't have the option to put her into another team, so it needs to be focusing on this. And there is one other issue with looking at the overall Qui-Gon Jinn team, because in Grand Arena, this was my first gut instinct. Oh, Qui-Gon Jinn. Not only is Qui-Gon Jinn a great Jedi Galactic Republic team, but he himself is a Jedi Vanguard. The issue is the second and third most important characters for his team, being Jedi Anakin and Ki-Adi-Mundi, neither of them have the Jedi Vanguard tag. So she either needs to be doing more than the 2 of them are combined, or we need to look for another team. And I'm going to suggest we're just going to look for another team entirely. And quite frankly, this team is still pretty good on its own, especially offensively, where you're not just getting ripped apart by something like Bad Batch. So the team that I'm going to be recommending, at least for 5v5, is going to be this one. Kelleron Beck is really the only character that is going to meet all the criteria we are looking at for a leader that is going to be Jedi, Jedi Vanguard, Galactic Republic, having everything that he wants to do. And then the supporting team, I actually kind of like where this landed. I'm not a huge fan of the team overall and the strength that it has. I do believe that it's probably the best that Jocasta is going to be able to do right now. But if you're in Kyber 1 or 2, kind of at the late game, I think this overall team's capabilities, they're not going to be great. And I'm not even sure if this is going to be used in 5v5, just because it seems a little bit limited and overall as to what it's going to be able to do. But at any rate, Kelleron Beck kind of made the obvious choice because of his overall leadership ability and the fact that he can function with everything Jocasta wants to do. I've chosen Luminara, and I will say this. We're choosing Luminara pretty specifically because of her GAC Omicron. It's not just because she has one, but her Omicron actually is going to have some bearing on Jocasta's kit. This is not an advertisement for Luminara. In fact, this is probably just hopium on my part of just wanting this to be good, at least on the final team. But what's going to happen here is Luminara is going to allow Jocasta, and really everyone on the team, to have more protection recovery. She turns her healing overtimes into protection overtime as well, because they also recover 20% protection every single time they go off, which that's good, because when we go to Jocasta, you'll see in her unique ability that she actually will increase her own offense every single time she recovers protection. So that's kind of some synergy we have there. In addition to that, she's going to gain speed, Luminara that is, so she's going to be able to use more specials and more abilities in general, so that she can get Jocasta's cooldown even lower, even faster. She does add in some fun things in here, like immune to turn meter reduction and critical avoidance while they have the healing over time, so that's a nice plus. And then whenever a stack of heal over time from this ability is dispelled, reduce the cooldown of this ability by 1, meaning if there are dispels on the enemy team, she should hopefully just be able to spam this over and over again. And like we previously looked at Jocasta's kit, whenever a character uses a special ability, it's going to reduce the cooldown to get her to her new form. So a little bit going on here with Luminara. Overall, her kit is still holding her back quite a bit, but she has the Jedi Vanguard tag, and with everything that is in that Omicron ability, it's doing quite a bit of work for her. Now, if you don't want to apply her Omicron, which I completely understand, I guess just put Barriss in. Barriss isn't really doing any of that. Barriss is just a much more useful character in general, so that would be a nice boost for you. Next up is going to be Plo Koon. Plo Koon is really going to do almost nothing in this team. I guess defense up is really nice for himself, as well as giving it to his whole team, some turn meter in there as well. Really where Plo Koon is going to gain more utility is actually with Shakti, who is probably the more useful character on the team. But if you look at her ability Assault Team, if she targets a tank, which Plo Koon is, despite the fact that he doesn't have his own way of taunting, she'll be able to put a taunt and critical hit immunity on him for 3 turns. The big giant issue with this is the second it gets dispelled, you're trapped behind a 3-turn cooldown, and there's really nothing you can do about it to get around that, which is not great. But overall, Shakti is just a great character to have on any team. Her offense up, doesn't care what faction or tag you are, she's going to give it to you regardless. This is a cleanse, by the way, for everyone. This is not only a heal, but this will also give protection recovery, which is going to be really nice. Or not this one, this train exercise is protection recovery, which is really nice because, as we previously mentioned with Jocasta's kit, that's also going to increase her offense over time. So Shakti doing a whole lot of good things for the team, and really, honestly, just giving Plo Koon some type of use at all being on the team. But just for posterity's sake, going into her kit now to actually look up that offense that I've been referring to several times. Whenever she recovers protection, gain 10% offense up, stacking for the rest of the encounter. So both those interactions we were looking at with both Shakti as well as Luminar. I think Kelleran Beck actually does it too. She's going to be gaining more and more offense as time goes on. Now, speaking of offense and the protection we've been looking at, that actually does lead us into her overall modding. Now, you probably won't be overly surprised that she's going to want an offense and crit chance set because she is quite obviously an attacker. But what might be a little bit surprising is the emphasis on protection. Her modding, because of that, is actually going to look a little bit similar to that of General Skywalker. And all boils down to, once she is in her new form, she is going to have multiple ways of dealing additional damage via protection. Now, this is not like Grievous, where her offense stat is being replaced by protection, but her protection is going to be dealing additional damage on top of her offense as well. So we don't want to completely throw out offense like we want to do with Grievous. If we look here at her Zeta ability for her basic, if they add vulnerable, she's going to deal an additional 10% damage based off of her max protection. If we go down to her Zeta ability, we will see that she's going to deal bonus true damage equal to 100% of her current protection. And then the final ability that she kind of unlocks when she's going to peace out is dealing special damage equal to 50% of her max protection. So max protection, max protection, max protection. All that being said, it also doubles as overall survivability for her. So since that one stat is going to have 2 functions, it's going to be the one that I'm going to prioritize the most. Now, if you have a ton of mod depth and you're just have great offense secondaries on everything, the most ideal modding is going to be a protection primary with an offense percent secondary. Now, as you can see, I myself don't exactly have that available, so she's just going to be getting protection. But overall, that would be the ideal modding. That is going to be how it's going to work on her cross, her circle, her triangle, as well as her arrow. All protection, because again, I really like this concept of doubling up on both survivability and damage at the same time. We'll see once we actually get her in game, and maybe even more once we get the new legendary mace, how applicable that really is, because especially with the countering and maybe how scarce vulnerable it is, I wouldn't be totally surprised if we end up finding out that offense is more desirable on the arrow as well as the cross and a crit damage triangle. But for now, this is where I'm starting her, and it's also, quite frankly, just what I have available. I do like the offense set just because protection sets don't exist, so there's really no cause to argue there. And like we looked at before, the overall stacking of her offense will aid that even better. I also do like crit chance on her. She already has 2 ways in her kit to boost her own crit damage, and the 44% crit chance she has from being a special attacker at an eye's glance looks terrible because 44% is super low. But when we look at her special ability that unlocks her new form, it's going to give her 50% critical chance for the rest of the battle, bumping up to 94%. So if we can just get another 10% or so from the set as well as other secondaries, then we can get her above 100%, and she should be critting quite a bit. So that is going to be her overall modding. I do, for relic levels, want her to be somewhere between 7 and 9. She is an attacker, so a lot of those offensive-minded stats, she is going to want them. And relic 9 probably isn't necessary for the vast majority of people, but she's the character that synergizes with protection. Relic 9 specifically gives bonus stuff for protection. The kicker is, though, it's mostly giving that to tanks. So even though Jocasta wants more protection, she doesn't really get that much because she's an attacker, different from Mace, whose gain is quite a bit more. So overall, that is going to be her Omicrons, her modding, the relic level she wants, as well as the overall team composition she's probably going to work best in until we get that new legendary Mace. So as always, let me know what you guys thought. And until the next time, stay awesome.